Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I am your host, Kim Davis, and happy Monday. It is December the 21st. It is, wow, just a few days before Christmas. So happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, all that good stuff. However you celebrate the holidays. And thanks to all of you who sent me the very kind birthday wishes over the past few days. I appreciate it. My birthday was on Sunday. I forget what day it was. It was the 19th. So thank you for the birthday wishes. I really appreciate that. And on my birthday, the Houston Texans won. They went into Jacksonville to beat the Jaguars. On Saturday, the Houston Rockets won in Detroit, beating the Pistons. They lost last night in Chicago to the Bulls. We're going to talk about all of that today. We are also going to talk about how kind of where we are in the season. You know, the NFL season's winding down. The Packers, the first team to clinch their division, they won the NFC North over the weekend, and all of the uncertainty around the National Football League because this Omicron variant is really taking its toll on the league, on all, not just sports, but I always say sports is a microcosm of society, so it's happening everywhere. It's definitely happening in sports. Games are being canceled and rescheduled, and coaches and players and staff and everybody is being impacted. So I say that to say, just remember that we are not. We are still in a pandemic, and as much as I know we are all over it, right? Like really ready to do something different, we've got to be vigilant and stay safe. And I'm encouraging you, if you're not vaccinated, to get vaccinated, get boosted, and to get tested if you've been in medium to large crowds and you feel any kind of symptoms. Last week in Houston, Sylvester Turner, the mayor, is tested positive for COVID, and unfortunately for him, he's not had any major symptoms, like shortness of breath or fever or any of those things that can be really debilitating. And he's sure that it's because he's vaccinated and boosted. So that's my weekly ongoing encouragement for you to be vaccinated and boosted, because it's just no joke. And be safe. It's not a great time to be in large crowds. Really think about where you're going. Think about your holiday celebrations. We made a decision as a family. We always do this big Christmas breakfast. It was what my mom loved, and we're always since my mom passed earlier this year, we tried to make sure that we kept our traditions alive and do the things that we would know she would like us to do, and it just helps us to continue to feel her spirit. But we also know she'd want us to be wise and safe and smart. So we're not having our big family breakfast. We're gonna do it again next year. We're just gonna be with our nuclear family, the group of us that's always together, just out of an abundance of caution. So that's what I'm encouraging you all to do as you come up to these holidays. Just make good choices and be smart about how you gather, so that we can all continue to gather and get to the other side. I do believe there is an other side of COVID, and we just got to get there. We've got to get there together. So I opened the show with that. Welcome. It has been an interesting few days, as I mentioned, because so many, in the sports world, so many players and coaches have tested positive for COVID. Numbers that are just and happening quickly. Like the numbers are really happening really quickly in terms of infections and cases, and so they've had to cancel some games, move some games, but they're trying to get through it. This is week 14, 15, what week is this? I don't know, maybe 16. There are 3 games left, say, for the Houston Texans, so that makes it probably week 16, week 15 or 16 of the NFL. So with that said, we will jump right into it, and I'm going to start talking a little bit about football. A couple of things. Last week, the Houston Sports Authority released that Justin Reed, Texans safety, starting safety for the Houston Texans, is going to be honored with the 2022 Sportsmanship Award. So congratulations for Justin Reed, for all the great work that he does, in and around the community. And in fact, he has an event today that he is he's going to be giving out some gifts and baskets for families. He won't be able to be there in person because of NFL protocols, so he's going to be there by Zoom. But it's because of him and his team that there are going to be some families getting some gifts and things for Christmas, meals included. So I'm sure that his team will post some stuff later, and I'll share that with you. It's just another testament to the work that Reed does. And he is the nominee for the Houston Texans in the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. So each team has a player that is nominated that to be that winner. And that's announced Super Bowl weekend. I think it's the NFL Honors on that Saturday night. So Justin Reed is a player from the Houston Texans that will be representing the Houston Texans in that particular in that program. So good luck to Justin. But you just want to kind of say kudos to the players and people who are doing stuff for others to make sure that they have a better holiday, a little brightness to some people who may not always have so much sunshine. So I want to make sure we tell those stories too. So on Sunday, the Houston Texans went into Jacksonville and beat the Jaguars. The weather was nasty. It was raining. I understand it's the Jaguars, not a great team. I heard somebody, I think in the post-game show, I heard Clint Sterner said, and I just cracked up when I heard it. He called it a pillow fight. And I was like, wow, that's really funny, but it's kind of appropriate, right? So he called it a pillow fight. But listen, the Texans did win that game, and there's the ongoing argument about whether or not you should, try to lose so that you can get the top pick. They're going to be in the top 3, and so I just you guys know where I am on that. I want to go down that rabbit hole again. They're going to have a chance for a top draft pick. I mean, it's really what you do with those picks. You know what I'll do? I'm going to go back and look at the last 10 number 1 overall picks. Maybe I'll do 15, and I'll write something on it, and we'll talk about it next week. But I'll write it and post it on all my platforms because I'd love to take a look at that so we can see, what are those number 1 overall picks? What were those selections, and how are they doing today? I think that's important. So yeah, it's great if you get the top pick, but it's what you do with it. And we've seen teams not do so great with it. And we know that the Texans are not going to get a quarterback in the first round this year. Who knows which way they'll go? Will they go with another defensive lineman? Clearly they've got to get some help on the offensive line. So the thought is that they're going to go out and get an offensive lineman with a top pick. So we'll see. We'll talk about the draft a little bit later. But I want to get to really what happened in the game on Sunday, and I wanted to pull up kind of some final stats about that game. It was the Colts. Not the Colts. It was the Jaguars. The Jaguars, also a team struggling, fired their coach last week, Urban Meyer. The madness that was surrounding him. I thought that the Jaguars would come out and play, really a little more inspired because they had the coaching change. The final of the game Sunday was 30-6. One of the things the Texans did that I don't think they've done this season, they came out and scored the first drive offensively. They've done that. But they also came out and scored on their first drive in the second half offensively. They hadn't done that. We've seen it be oftentimes a tale of two halves in some cases. Sometimes both halves have been just bad. But we have seen some games where they've come out and played well early and then not been able to really, do anything with it. In the game on Sunday, Davis Mills completed 19 of 30 passes, 209 yards. He threw 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and was sacked once. Brandon Cooks, it was great to see Brandon Cooks getting into the action, because we've heard the criticism about Brandon not really being the Texans not being able to get him involved. He's by far the best receiver, probably their best player on offense. Brandon was targeted 10 times. He had 7 receptions and 102 yards. Caught both of the touchdown passes were to Brandon Cooks. The longest one was 43 yards. So, it was a good outing for the offense and for Davis Mills, in particular, for him to be able to find Brandon Cooks. The running game is still, they just not doing a lot. Burkhead is their rushed 16 times for 41 yards, averaged about 2.5 yards a carry. David Johnson only carried the ball 6 times. He averaged 4 yards. Their longest run was 8 yards. Their running game is just pretty much non-existent. Kaimi Fairbairn was 3 for 3 with field goals. He kicked another 50-plus yarder. It was 52 yards is what he kicked on Sunday. So, they did some things where they looked pretty good. Third down, they were 10 of 18 on third down efficiency. They had 281 total yards of offense. They only rushed for 75. They had 1 turnover. They didn't have any takeaways. That's not normal for that team. They usually do a lot better. And they did get 3 sacks. They were penalized 9 times for 65 yards, and they won the time of possession battle, but only barely. But overall, listen, not a bad outing in terms of not just they got a win, but just how they did some things on Sunday. The Jaguars, if you're interested, Trevor Lawrence, the player that many thought was going to be a generational player at quarterback, and he still might be. It's way too early to talk about if Trevor Lawrence is what he's going to be, especially considering the situation surrounding him and the Jaguars and Urban Meyer and all of that this year. But he completed 22 of 38 passes. He was sacked 3 times, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and had 3 for 210 yards. So, not a great outing from the young number 1 overall pick. But, again, the Texans, looked good. I don't want to put too much into it, because it is indeed the Jaguars. But the Texans need a win whenever they can get it. And so they beat the Jaguars on Sunday. A couple of games were postponed. Today there are actually 2 games. The Seahawks and Rams play today at 6 o'clock on Fox. And then the Washington football team and the Eagles also play tonight at 6. Last night, was that last night, the Chiefs and Chargers? Vikings and Bears, 17-9. Vikings won that game 17-9. So that's kind of what's happening. Hey, good morning, Sylvia. Good morning. It's my sister, Sylvia. Oh, you're very kind. Carol Justice says it's... thank you. I appreciate those kind words, and I appreciate you checking in on me, Carol. It is a difficult season with my mom not being here physically, so I know you are a praying sister, and I appreciate your prayers. So thank you for that. It means a lot. The glasses, yeah. Glasses are kind of my thing, so thank you for that. And you're right, Carol, the Texans did look a lot better than in previous times, so hands up for them on that. But there's a couple things that came out of the Monday press availability with the Texans. A conversation that was had, a question was asked of David Culley, head coach David Culley, and I'm annoyed that I couldn't get one of these clips to load, but there is a way that I'm going to try one more time. I can get it to you. Okay, so I want to share
after you went back and watched the tape, did anything stand out to you that you didn't notice during the game that you liked?
Well, the two things that we did that we haven't done this year is that we scored on our opening drive, and then we end up getting points in the second half off of that opening drive. And so that was I thought that was a positive, that I hadn't thought about at that time.
Okay, that's not the clip. I'm going to get it to you guys. Let me see.
2 points on, the last two.
John?
Okay, so I'm going to look at this clip and tell you which one it is. Get it to where it should be, because I don't want you to have to. You know what? We're going to do it this way. Let me see.
They spend together during the week.
A lot of time to do to improve, and he and Tim will go over the game plan daily with them, all in a room together, discussing what we're going to do and things that we like to do, and then what they feel like they're comfortable with. But it's a combination of them working together, and they're doing a good job. And I tell you what, he's improving weekly, getting it done, because other than, again, the bad throw decision to make that throw, which he shouldn't have made. And then I thought too that later on in the game, in the second half, where we kind of stalled a little bit, I thought he missed a couple of throws that he should have made that would have kept drives alive. But he's in.
Okay, so that's David Culley talking about Davis Mills and what happens during the week. But that's not the sound that I wanted to get you. So we're having a little bit of technical issue, but I think I can, let me see if I can get it to the place where I want him to. It's something that we've talked about. You've heard me talk about here on this show a lot, and it was brought up, it was discussed yesterday in the press conference. We're doing everything on Zoom now because of the COVID kind of outbreak, if you will, again.
Decision to make that throw, which he shouldn't have made.
Let's go back.
Value of what he means to this team on the field, but
he knows how it's supposed to go. He's been in good locker rooms, and when things weren't right in the locker room, he's someone that I could always lean on to know that, he's part of my leadership council. Where what do we need to do to make sure things are going right, and he's been right on with everything that I felt like he knows that I want to get done here. We're on the same page with that, and he's a guy that our players trust, and not only just because of the kind of player he is, but the kind of person he is.
Aaron Reese.
Okay, this is it.
Hey David, I wanted to go back to what you were talking about with Nick and Romeo during the game. What are kind of the conversations like in the not just the meetings beforehand, but in the actual flow of the game when you're making a big decision like that?
Well, just like I go back to the 2-minute situation when we're in it, I immediately went online.
I know his mouth is not moving, but this is
with
sound.
Nick, and obviously he and Romeo talked about it, and says, okay, our timeouts now, how do we need to use these timeouts, And then immediately, okay, at this, depending on what happened on this play, we need to call it. If this doesn't happen, then don't call a timeout. So all those things are discussed before we ever get to that point. Like, we're usually a play ahead of that. And then when it happens, then I've got to be ready to make that decision. And that's usually, Aaron, with all those kinds of decisions, I go back again to the New England game. I can remember just like it was yesterday that the conversation went, let them score. I heard the conversation, and then all of a sudden it didn't compute to me at that time. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden now from that point on, I've learned that to be ahead of those things. And when you're ahead of those things like that, you're much better to make those decisions. That means you're going to make the right decision, but when you make that decision, you're pretty sure about making that decision. And when you make those decisions, Aaron, those players know. They know immediately whether you're going for it on fourth down, You know, a lot of times when we get in a third down situation, a 3rd and 2 or whatnot, I'll tell Tim, you got 2 downs. I want him to make this decision knowing that you got 2 downs to get this first down. Nobody knows that but he and I. So the point is being able to have those things ahead of time allows us to, and allows our play callers to be able to do the things that they need to do.
Okay,
David,
so
after you,
So that was Coach Culley, and you didn't see his mouth moving, but that is the sound. So, you know, you've heard me say here when people, you know, it's easy to say, "Oh my gosh, David Culley's his in-game management is not good," or "Why did he let that play go?" And I'm always saying to you guys, I don't know that all of those are his decisions, and that if you've got your general manager, your boss on the headsets with you in the game. And let's be clear, I don't believe it's because David Culley has said, you know, I'm so unsure of myself. Can you be on the headsets and help me figure out what to do? I don't really believe that that's how the conversation went. Now, I wasn't there. I don't know. But I believe that that's the level of control that Caserio wants. I believe he put the person, I've said it all along, Nick Caserio hired a coach that he could have this level of control over. That's just what I believe in terms of deciding on who his staff would be, being in the booth on the headsets in every game. So let me first say this. I'm not saying that David Culley is a person who should coach this team forever and that it was the best hire. But what I'm saying is it was the right hire for Nick Caserio. It was the kind of coach Nick Caserio was clearly looking for. Somebody who would let him be as involved as he is. That's all I'm saying. Is it good or bad? I'm not saying Nick's a bad guy. I'm just saying I've never seen anything quite like it. I've never seen anything like it. And so I don't know how you really have the level of success that you need to have with that kind of thing going on. You know, I'm just not really sure. I think it's difficult. And so because of those, and there was a couple other questions asked of him yesterday during the Monday press conference where he talked about the whole Nick Caserio, the relationship, being in the booth. And it's interesting how I saw one reporter say, well, yeah, let me see it. Let me find it. I'll pull it up. Made a comment about, I guess it's not on here, that is, no, I thought I saw it. Anyway, it's not on here. But I thought the conversation was what it probably looks like. It's probably a case where he's already decided that, you know, the Texans, Caserio's already decided that Culley is not the person. You know, he probably won't keep him on as head coach if he's that involved. But he's been that involved since he's been on the headsets the entire season. I mean, that's not new. So let's not act like this is something that's happening right now. But it is something that was asked about this week. It was talked about this week, right? So I don't know. I don't know what it means. I don't think it's that this is my point is that this is necessarily a new issue. This is something that you guys have heard me say the entire season. Like, when is it general manager in the booth on the headsets every game? What's that like? Who's really making the decisions? And so Romeo Crennel, who has a lot of history as a defensive coordinator, as an NFL head coach. Okay, so if you're talking to Romeo, but you've got Nick, I'm sure you got mostly Nick. And it's not like you've got just tons of time, you know, between plays to make these decisions and have all these conversations. So that's a lot to navigate. Listen, you all know my background's television, live TV, where you've got someone in your ear, right? And you've got a director or a producer or sometimes both talking to you live in the middle of something, and you've got to be able to manage that. That's one of the things you've got to be able to do is I've got to hear these voices and I've got to still talk to you. I can't stop and go, wait a minute, what'd you say? Dennis, it's got to be seamless with these people in my ear. So that's what has to happen with David Culley. He's got to have these people in his ear. He's got to communicate with the players, Davis, people on the sideline. I'm not trying to make an excuse for David Culley. I've just always wondered, like, what was really the plan for this year? Is it just a stopgap year? And that's what I've always believed with Nick Caserio in terms of the David Culley hire. But I just don't think the fault is all with David Culley. That's all I'm saying. Because the Texans and Nick Caserio were not going to hire a coach who wouldn't allow this level of input and control. They just weren't going to do it. They weren't. There's no other reason that you make some of the choices that they've made. It's about control, and it's about being able to do exactly what it is they want to do. So it's different here. I'm telling you guys, it is different here. And I don't really know. I hear people talk about how awful David Culley is, but they think that Nick Caserio has done a really good job. And you can say now, like, okay, so the draft picks that they got, because they didn't have a first or second round pick, have performed fairly well. I mean, Davis Mills has played. He's a third round draft pick as quarterback. That wasn't a bad pick. Roy Lopez that they selected in the 6th round, the starting defensive lineman, that was a good pick. And then they got some young players, the receiver Collins, that you can say, okay, those picks were, I don't know if any of these guys are going to be Pro Bowlers, but it's too early to say that what they can't become in their career either. But they're definitely going to be contributors. And many of them already are because of a variety of things, from injuries to COVID. They've had to go with their younger players. Have to give some credit to what they did on special teams on Sunday. They ran back a 98-yard touchdown on special teams. First time that's happened with this team since Jacoby was here. And what was that, 2009 maybe? So it's been a minute since they've had that kind of play on special teams. So, this team, the offseason will be really interesting. All I'm saying is I think it's way too early to say that Nick Caserio is this budding, rising superstar as a general manager. I think we don't know yet. I think the jury's out on Nick Caserio and the decisions that he's made and the decisions that he will make. I'm not willing to say yet that, oh, absolutely, he's the guy to turn this thing around and right the ship. He is the guy that hired David Culley and most of the staff and sits in the booth on the headsets. Like, how many coaches would say, okay, I'll take a job doing that, right? So I don't think you can blame David Culley for that. And for those who say, well, he shouldn't have taken the job, I certainly can't say that. How could you tell somebody at this point in their life and career, you should not take this opportunity? I think we've just got to be careful about telling other people what we think they should do or shouldn't do. It's an opportunity for he and his family, and I don't know that there were not any other head coaching opportunities that seem to have availed themselves to him. So David Culley did what he wanted to do for he and his family, and thought, hey, let me come. I don't know what he thought, but he's here, and I'm not mad at him for taking the opportunity. I just will tell you that whoever was sitting on the sideline as the head coach of this team would be able to do this about the same things, that wouldn't have any more control than David Culley, because that is not what they wanted, okay? Not what they wanted at all. So it's going to be interesting. I mentioned there's a couple games tonight. The playoff race. Let's go back to look at the standings, if you will. So in terms of the playoffs, in the AFC, Kansas City who's now won 7 games in a row, is at the top again of the AFC. They're at 10-4. New England's next at 9-5. Tennessee is also 9-5, and Cincinnati's 8-6. In terms of the wild card, you have Indianapolis at 8-6, the Chargers at 8-6, Buffalo 8-6, and then under that is Baltimore 8-6. The Chargers come to Houston to play the Texans on Sunday, so playoff implications in that game for the Chargers, not for the Texans. In the NFC, Green Bay, as I mentioned, the first team to clinch their division and a playoff spot. Green Bay has the best record in the league at 11-3. They won the NFC North. Dallas is next at 10-4. Man, Tampa's 10-4. Tampa was shut out by New Orleans this weekend. So since Tom Brady has been in Tampa, the Buccaneers have 0-4 against the Saints in the regular season. And Arizona is 10-4. In terms of the wild card in the NFC, the Rams are 9-4. San Francisco's 8-6. Minnesota's 7-7. New Orleans right there at 7-7 also. If New Orleans can somehow get to the playoffs, they pose a problem for Tampa Bay because they're able to frustrate and defend Tom Brady in a way that really no other team has seemed to be able to do. So that will be interesting. That's pretty much the playoff scenario as it stands right now. And like I said, Kansas City's won 7 in a row. And speaking of streaks, let me just mention this. Miami Dolphins, who are the team that is Miami's 7-7. They've won 6 in a row. Okay, so Miami has the same record as the Raiders, the Browns, right, and the Broncos. So Miami, which is a team that, all the conversation about Tua's not able to get it done. They want to move him out of there. They're in the Deshaun Watson kind of sweepstake, if you will, to see who's going to get his services more than likely next year. And that's a place that Deshaun apparently has wanted to go. So the question is, after this season, is Miami still interested in making the move for Deshaun Watson? Has anything happened to make them say that maybe Tua could be a guy to lead this franchise in the future? I don't know. We will see. But they have won. They're in the middle of a 6-game winning streak. Next up, they play Monday night at New Orleans. The last game, they beat the Jets in New York 31-24. So, Tua is taking care of business. It is the first time that they've been at 500 since week 2, and they do have some playoff hopes. So the road gets tougher with them in the final 3 games of the regular season. They go to, as I mentioned, the Saints on Monday night. And it wasn't Tua's greatest game on Sunday, but they did win. So we will keep our eye on what's happening with Miami, but I think that situation is really, really interesting. You're listening to Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Kim Davis, and we're talking a little bit about football and just really kind of the latest about what's happening with the variant, the latest with COVID, and the NFL continuing to update their protocols because of all of the outbreaks. I want to jump a little bit and talk about go to the NBA because before we talk about the Houston Rockets and what they're really doing on the court, last week the Rockets honored and recognized former head coach Rudy Tomjanovich, who is also now a Hall of Famer. And so he was there. His jersey had already been retired, but they added the Hall of Fame banner to his jersey in the rafters. So that is now hanging in rafters. So we got a chance to visit with Rudy before the game a little bit. It was great to see him. I mean, I covered Rudy T, and I covered, let's see here. Let me find. I had a chance to, of course, cover those championships. And so we talked to Rudy before the game. And, we talked a lot. What? Okay, so it's not letting me show you the Rudy T. That's so crazy. Hey, thanks, Carol. You have a Merry Christmas, too. It's always great to see you and have you engaging on the show. I want to show you guys, I know what I'll do, the Rudy Tomjanovich. Soundbite. So I'm going to get it from my Twitter page because I also posted it on Twitter. Not really sure why it's not letting me show you guys. So this is the thing about technology. It's really great when it works, and then when it doesn't, sometimes it's not so great. It's kind of a pain. So I'm going to pull up the Rudy Tomjanovich sound. Okay, so let me make this. So you guys know he's one of the things that we know about Rudy Tomjanovich is that he one of the comments that he has been really known for, one of the phrases, right, is when he talked about never underestimating the heart of a champion. So I asked Rudy about that. Did you think when you made those comments all those years ago that, let me pull up. Okay, let's see here if I can bring it to you. Okay, so let me.
It wasn't one of my greater moments, if you understand what I mean. Yeah. It was sort of bragging after the fact, which is not me. But I thought it was rare that we made a trade, and before the season was over, there were people around the league that were critical. And it's very hard to evaluate a trade the year that you make it. You have to wait a while, that all of a sudden, they screwed up, they traded a big for a small. I wouldn't call Clyde small in any way. He's big for his position, and he dominated his position. So that's what sort of prompted it. I found the words, heart of a champion. I got those from Kevin Johnson. He said that about the Rockets. He said, very hard to beat them. They have the heart of a champion because we had won the year before. Now, Charles used a different analogy. He said, they're like those big old Texas roaches. You step on them and you hear the crunch, you think they're gonna die, and they're still alive. So I chose the heart of a champion instead of the toughness of a roach.
So that was Rudy T before the game last week. And that was interesting because I never knew that, right? When I asked him about that, I was surprised by the answer. I didn't know what I expected, but I did not expect that his answer would be that his answer would be, it wasn't his finest moment, like his proudest moment, because he felt like it was kind of bragging after the fact, and that's just not who he is. I thought that was really, really interesting. So it was fun to talk to Rudy T before the game last week. He shared some moments talking about Akeem Olajuwon, and when Akeem was going into the hall, he wanted to call him, but he wasn't sure because Akeem had gone to Toronto as a free agent, and he just didn't want to be do anything that was inappropriate. But when he did kind of get the word that Akeem would love to hear from him, and he talked to him, he said it was great. And of course, Akeem was at the game last week as well. They played a video of during the game, and of Rudy T. And I wonder, did I post that video? I don't know if I did or not. But I just thought that was something that was really interesting and I wanted to share with you. I also wanted to share some video of Jalen Green. Some of you've asked about the youngster, the rookie, how he's come in. So yesterday, Jonathan Fagan, who's the beat writer for the Chronicle, covers the Rockets, is on the road with them, and he posted a video of Jalen in practice, after practice, kind of running the floor. So I'm going to let you see what it looked like for let me stop that one and let me show you another one and let you see what Jalen, share screen, how Jalen looks, what he's got going on. Okay, let me delete that so that I'm gonna delete the music so that the internet cops won't get me for playing music because I don't have a license for it. But here he is. So this is Jalen after practice yesterday, running the floor. It looks pretty good, Not sure yet when he's going to come back. The thought is that Kevin Porter Jr. may make it back by this weekend. The Rockets are still on the road. They play in Indiana tomorrow. Today's the 21st, so it's Tuesday. I think they play, let me tell you. So they're on the road now. They were in Chicago last night. They play in Milwaukee tomorrow night on the 22nd. And then they play in Indiana on the 23rd. They're off Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the day after. So they probably will get to come home. And then they go back to Charlotte on the 27th before they come home for a couple of days. They end the month, if you will, with, stop sharing that, at home. They play the Lakers on the 28th. And then they play Miami on New Year's Eve at 6 o'clock. So anyway, that's how the Rockets will wrap up the year, and so we'll see what happens with them and how they do. But that was Jalen Green. I wanted you to see that, and I also wanted you guys to hear the sound from David Culley, so that you could hear for yourself. Not that you ever thought I was making up that in the booth, he's sitting in the booth with Nick Caserio is in the booth with the headsets on and talking to him throughout the game. Now, I knew that Nick was in the booth with headsets. I didn't know what the level of conversation was. I always just thought, you've heard me say this whole season, I'm not sure that David Culley is making these decisions on his own. So anyway, that's that, and that's a little bit about what's happening with the Houston Rockets. Tough loss last night in Chicago. They gave up a lot. It was 118-133. Again, they won in Detroit on Saturday. They lost last night, and they go to Milwaukee tomorrow, and that's going to be tough, because Milwaukee's really good. They have more than one superstar, and they also have Giannis. So that's going to be tough for them on the road, but they've got a back-to-back in in Milwaukee and Indiana, and then I imagine they'll come home for a couple days, so they get to be home for Christmas before they head out to go play at Charlotte next Monday. All right, so as we wind down today's show, I did want to remind you guys, I opened the show talking about COVID, right? And that this variant is just running rampant. Like it's highly transmissible, clearly. And for those who are vaccinated, they've been able to not have very difficult symptoms. The first death from the Omicron variant was reported either yesterday, I think it was yesterday, over the last day or so. Here in Houston, that person was unvaccinated. And so while I encourage you to get vaccinated and boosted and to really monitor who you around and where you go. Wear your mask. Like, don't get too lax about wearing your mask. And I also want to remind you about, you've heard me talk about it here on this program before. There's a product called Jinka. For those of you who are in the Houston area and even around in South Texas, you can get it from HEB, right? So in HEB, in the healthy living section, in the refrigerated cooler, it's Jinka. There's 2 sizes. It's a little paste. You can put it in all sorts of things, right? I put it in my coffee or in hot tea. You can put it in almond milk. You can put it in apple juice. Anybody of any age can have it. It's a great immune booster. So you've heard me talk about Jinka before. I would encourage you to just do the extra stuff to protect yourself and to boost your immune system. So it's called I Love Jinka. There's also capsules. If you don't want to make the taste, there also are the vegan capsules that you can take. But the paste in something warm is really good. It feels really good going down. And so as we navigate this ongoing pandemic, I really encourage you to go check it out. Hey, Kim is speaking of Jinka. Kim Edwards Williams is on. Now, you have heard her here talk about 2 things. She talks about Jinka, and she also talks about saving your eyebrows. So it's all about doing things that are natural and healthy, right? So ilovejinka.com is where you can go. You can order some online. You can go into the store and get it. But when you're in the store, wear your mask. I'm just saying, y'all, it is crazy out there. And we want to just protect ourselves. And even if you are vaccinated and boosted, I still encourage you to wear your mask. Because yes, while there's a much higher chance from what we know, and I think it's fair to say that we don't know a lot because this thing keeps mutating, right? And it keeps growing. And I don't know how long it's going to take before we stamp it out, because this whole idea of a vaccine became political, and so people didn't take it, and people aren't taking it, and there's all this tension in that. It's all that stuff. So I'm not really here to have a debate about the vaccine. In fact, I'm not really having conversations with people about whether they should be vaccinated or not. Do what you do. I'm just saying, encouraging you to be safe. And even if you are vaccinated, to still be safe, and wear your mask, and get you some Jinka, and wash your hands a lot, and always have hand sanitizer with you, and maybe avoid a lot of crowds. Just kind of sit back and do, like Kim said, do what you do, but be safe. And I'm just offering some suggestions and a product that can help you do what you do, right? And if you don't want to do any of those things, then again, do what you do. But I hope that you all are safe, and that you are navigating this holiday season with not a lot of stress, not getting all caught up and running around in a bunch of stores. My shopping's limited. It's grocery stores, and it's early, and I'm in and out. I'm not going when it's super crowded because I'm cooking for my family for the holiday, but I don't have a whole lot of other stuff to do. So we're good over here. But anyway, hey, listen, I appreciate you guys being a part of Chalk Talk. Thank you again I had so many really kind birthday wishes on my social media pages. I wasn't able to respond to them all. Maybe at some point I can go back and do that. It's just, there were so many, but I want to say it here, and I'll post it too publicly. I appreciate you. I appreciate the love and the extra prayers for me and my family as we navigate this time of year, which is difficult without my mom. It is. It's our first holiday season, and not that I think it will ever be, easy, if you will. But the first one is probably just the most difficult, and so I just talk about it because I don't want to you be strong in it. It'll seem like it's not there. It's tough. And I'm just so grateful to have amazing family and friends and this Chalk Talk tribe, because you guys give me, you give me strength. So thank you. I appreciate you. In the meantime, remember, even though the season's winding down and we're thinking about holidays, be safe as you're moving around. But also, y'all, you know, we gotta be vigilant. You know, and when I get out today, I know they're not working, but I've got to send a couple emails to my senators because I need them to get on the voting rights thing, and I need them to get on some of this legislation, right? And they're not at work, but when they get there, they're going to hear from Kim Davis, right? So when you get a minute, you know, send a note, send an email, leave a message. I would say send an email because that'll be someplace written to the people that represent you about what's happening and what it is that you want to see them do, because they do work for us, even though they don't act like it. We have to take back the power as the real employers and just keep demanding what we want from the people who have been hired and put in positions to serve. So with that, I say Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is that you celebrate. I will see you next week, but I won't see you in this platform before Christmas. Next week's show, I'm hoping to have Bubba Mcdowell, a longtime friend, covered Bubba when he played in the National Football League. He's been coaching at Prairie View for years. He's the defensive coordinator. He is right now the interim head coach as the coach from PV took the job at Southern. And it's now time for PV to hire Bubba. He's been interim before. He's been there for many years. I appreciate this about Bubba. When he wasn't ready yet, he said, I'm not ready. But he's ready now to be the head coach. He's put in the time. He's been loyal. He's good at what he does. And so he was gonna join us today, but he's out delivering stuff to some families in need. I couldn't really say anything about that. So the plan is that he's going to join us here next week on Chalk Talk Live, and we will talk to Bubba about the PV job and just his journey. And I want you to hear from him. And I also want to have some conversations about HBCUs because I've seen some national media people, none of them look like me, that I've read, really, you know, talking about the fact that these top football players that are choosing HBCUs are making bad decisions. You know, Deion Sanders at Jackson State, and this is going to be my last thing I say, signed the young quarterback to come to Jackson State out of Florida, one of the top players in the country. He had verbally committed to Florida State, which is, of course, Deion's alma mater, but he decided to go to Jackson State. And he's one of the top, he's like the top quarterback prospect, high school prospect, I believe, but definitely one of the top blue chip athletes, top athletes in the country. And the jokes about, yeah, well, you get there and, you know, I'm exaggerating here, but the lights don't work, or, you know, basically saying you get there and their facilities are raggedy and janky. Yeah, but I can come to this really fancy facility and not get the kind of emotional support that I need, like an understanding that I need about who I am and what my culture is, because those things do matter. So I don't knock young people who say I want to go to a Texas A&M, but I'm also don't think we can let these, I'm gonna say it, you know, these people knock these young guys, young players to the side. And I want to go to a SWAC school. You don't get to do that either. And so I just think we need to have conversations about it. We need to call people on it, and we need to encourage. It's about getting to go where you want to go. And I'm glad that they're making a choice to maybe go play for Deion and you know, Eddie Robinson, who's now back at his alma mater in the SWAC. And, you know, what is it that you need? What does your kid need when he goes to college? Because if you can play, you will be seen. And you have to decide what experience you want to have. And so let's help change the conversation about HBCUs so that they're not so negative. No, none of them are perfect. The resources are different, but how do they get better? by some things like this happening. So anyway, we're going to talk about HBCU football next week, and of course all the other stuff happening. Have a great week. Be safe out there, and I appreciate you guys. Remember, share this video with your online community wherever you're watching it. I appreciate you, and of course, as always, let me hear from you. If there's something you'd like for me to talk about, or if there's somebody you think, hey Kim, we'd like to hear this person or this issue on Chalk Talk, just let me know. However you're watching the show, reach out to me there, and I would love to hear from you. Before I go, Francis, hey, thank you for joining. We have a new person. Do you think the Cowboys could go to the NFC Championship? Also help me and my partner settle a debate. Should a sandwich be squished before being eaten? Okay, so on the sandwich thing, I guess it depends on how big it is. Whether you gotta, kind of squish it down. But the Cowboys, listen, early in the year, Francis, I would say the Cowboys had a good chance, and they're not out of it. Unfortunately, Dak has not been playing great lately. He just hasn't, but you can't get there without Dak playing better, and you need Ezekiel Elliott to be a little more productive, because your defense is all of that. So to answer your question, maybe. But hey, thank you for tuning in to Chalk Talk. I'm glad you like the channel. Come back next week and we'll talk more about the Cowboys, and we'll see what they do this week. All right, everybody. I'll see you next time. Make it a great week, and be safe out there.